The wind was constant. Not loud, just present. It picked up dust, whispered through wire fences, tossed empty ration wrappers across sun-bleached stone. But the flag didn't move. Evelyn Shaw stared through the worn Soviet scope pressed to her eye. At first she thought it was caught. Maybe snagged on a nail. But no, it dangled, freely. And still, it didn't flutter. Everything else moved. She adjusted the focus. Beyond the flag, a crumbling gas station. Faded signage. Shadows and broken windows. A place recon had cleared 3 days ago. But Evelyn's breath slowed. Her fingers didn't move. Just her eyes. The flag was wrong. It should have danced in this wind. But it didn't. She exhaled, whispering under her breath. "Stop walking." They didn't hear her. But she whispered it anyway. The patrol had 4 vehicles. Lead truck Lieutenant Calder, eager, confident, still smelling like war college. 2 vehicles behind, squad members scanning the horizon with half trust in their own gear. Then came the comms unit. And lastly, a scratched civilian Humvee. Inside it, Evelyn Shaw. Not in uniform. No stripes. No visible rank. A civilian on paper. But her badge, flashed briefly during briefing, made every officer fall silent. No one questioned why she came. No one even knew when she arrived. She sat quietly, always in the last vehicle, always looking. Not at screens, not at data, but through a dusty steel scope older than any man in that convoy. No one asked why she used it. They assumed it was sentimental. They assumed wrong, the squad joked. One lit a cigarette, shielding it from the wind. Another asked about leave dates. Only Evelyn noticed the silence beneath the noise. She tilted the scope again. The flag still didn't move, but this time sunlight glinted off something, barely there. A filament, tight, metallic, invisible unless caught by just the right light. She traced it with her eye. Flag, filament, fuel pump, tripwire, but this wasn't a standard IED. She tapped the glass of her scope lightly. Adjusted range, zoomed, a rifle mounted on the fuel station roof. Not aimed at them, aimed at the tripwire. If the wire pulled, boom. But something didn't fit. She swept right. Another wire. Another trap. She kept scanning, and found him. A boy, maybe 12, tied to a post near the market stall, leg trembling, hands bound, and under his feet a rug. Flat, still, but a pressure plate underneath. Evelyn was sure of it. The trap wasn't for them. It was for him. And they were the witnesses. Evelyn's hands moved fast. She reached for her radio. No signal. Comms were down or scrambled. She could see the boy starting to shift. He was panicking, rocking on his heels. Seconds. She rechecked the scope. Roof, target, sniper. Not a local, not sloppy. Well-placed, controlled, professional. They weren't just using the boy, they were performing. For them, she had a choice. Let it play out, save herself, or intervene and risk everything. She inhaled. Took the shot. The bullet passed clean through the sniper's lens. His body dropped silently. But it was too late. The boy stepped. The rug shifted. And the flag twitched, and for the first time, boom! Not wide, not chaotic. It was a precision blast, shaped and focused. The gas station exploded inward. A ring of smoke blasted out, rising in silent fury. The boy's post had been cleared by the blast. No body left. Just scorched rope and fire licking at the sky. Dust settled. The patrol froze. Then rifles turned. Toward Evelyn. Lieutenant Calder stormed back. "What the hell did you do?" His voice cracked. Dust smeared across his vest. Evelyn said nothing. She handed him the scope. "Look at the flag," she murmured. He hesitated, took it. Scanned the station. The pump, the pressure plate. The wiring. Then he saw it. The trip, the trigger, the trap. His anger melted, replaced by confusion and something colder. Fear. Who set something like this up? With a sniper watching the wire? Evelyn finally met his eyes. "Not amateurs," she said. "Not insurgents." "Then who?" he asked. She turned away and answered over her shoulder. "Someone who wanted me to see it." Back in her Humvee, Evelyn flipped open an old field notebook. Inside, sketches, maps, targets long since cleared. On one page, a symbol. A triangle. Inside it, a circle. drawn years ago in black ink. She flipped back to her scope, adjusted the magnifier, looked at the metal plate half exposed beneath the destroyed flagpole. There it was, the same symbol, carved into the steel. She closed the scope slowly, eyes unreadable. It wasn't about the convoy. It wasn't about the boy. It was about her, and they'd found her again. The desert never forgets. Wind erases quickly, but never completely. Boots leave signs, tracks, pressure, broken crust. But the sand ahead was too smooth. Evelyn Shaw stepped out of the Humvee and knelt, fingers brushing the untouched surface. There'd been a checkpoint here just yesterday. Dozens of troops. Foot patrols. A full resupply drop. Yet now, no prints, no drag marks. Not even tire trails. Just flat virgin sand. Like no one had ever been here. But Evelyn knew better. Someone had been here, and they'd made damn sure it looked like they hadn't. The convoy was 2 hours out from the blast site. They hadn't spoken much since. Lieutenant Calder had stopped trying to command Evelyn. He still didn't trust her, but now, he watched her the way prey watches a quiet predator. The checkpoint they'd now arrived at had been established 36 hours ago by another platoon, codenamed Dagger 4. It was supposed to be active, fully manned. They were scheduled to swap supplies and personnel here. But what they found was nothing. No people, no blood, no struggle. Just tents still standing, coffee still warm in a canteen, and sand that had been groomed. Evelyn moved methodically, scanning, listening. No birds, no wind. Even the radios hummed dead. She crouched by a footprint, or rather the ghost of one. Barely a depression. Someone had stepped, then swept it. She followed the line. It led to a buried antenna mast, still hot. Recently shut down. She knew what this was. A cover-up. Not an attack. Not an ambush. Something or someone had cleaned this place. Erased it. She pulled out a small device. Not military issue. Not from this century, maybe. She placed it in the center of the camp and tapped twice. A dull hum rippled outward, and in seconds the sand flickered, exposing faint infrared residues. Body heat. Old footprints. A whole team. Then she saw it. One of the heat signatures had broken off from the rest. Dragged, then vanished. They followed the ghost trail. It led them past a dune that didn't belong. It was too symmetrical. Too still. Like it was built, not formed. Evelyn raised her hand. The convoy stopped. No questions now. Just compliance. She walked slowly toward the dune. Her boots left marks, but only shallow ones. Underneath, stone, not sand. She brushed away the surface. Concrete. A wall. Perfectly buried. Someone had built a structure, a bunker or vault, right under this zone. Covered it with inches of sculpted sand, invisible to drone scans. She tapped her comm to Private Freak. Shot a Redbird. Coordinates transmitting. Possible cold structure. Redbird, a Black Ops relay, responded immediately. Received. That site's not on any active grid. Exactly. She looked back at Calder. This wasn't a disappearance, she said. This was an extraction. Before Calder could ask what she meant, the ground shifted. A quiet puff of sand erupted behind them. They spun. Weapons up. Nothing. Then another, closer. Puffs. Like someone walking just beneath the surface. Back in the trucks, Calder shouted. But Evelyn stayed still. She knelt again. Watched. The sand ahead breathed. Rose. Fell. Something alive was underneath them. She turned slowly and her voice calm. Don't run. Why? Calder whispered, pale. Because they're listening. And if we run, we tell them we know. The sand ahead cracked. A finger emerged. Human. Then more. A hand, reaching, slow and careful, not desperate, not struggling. It wasn't someone escaping. It was someone watching. Just enough above the surface. To see her. She didn't blink. Neither did the hand. And slowly, it retreated back under. He called out. Just a name. Once. The desert should have bounced it back. But nothing answered. Not even a hollow echo. The sound was eaten, swallowed by silence. Evelyn Shaw looked up from her map. She didn't need a scope for this. Something was wrong with the air. She stood slowly. Listened. The wind whispered behind the rocks. The sun was halfway down. Evelyn had insisted they move off route. Follow the heat signature trail that ended at the buried wall. Against protocol. but Calder had stopped questioning her. They reached the next waypoint, an old stone ridge, supposedly abandoned since the early conflict years, but someone had turned it into a listening post. Antennas masked with camouflage netting, solar panels covered with local dust, old militia graffiti, fresh paint. Evelyn moved in first. The others fanned out behind her. No hostiles, no bodies, but gear was active. A low-frequency transmitter still pulsed every 7 seconds. She swept the room. A single cot, a tray with one uneaten meal, a Bible, marked in Arabic and English, and a field recorder. She pressed play. Static. Then a voice. "Oh, she's here. She's here. She's back." The tape hissed. "They'll know now. We have to—" Click. Silence. Then, somewhere behind them, but came a whisper. Not words. Just breath. The squad set up a perimeter. Evelyn stood at the far edge, her back to the sun, scanning the terrain. She wasn't looking for people. She was looking for patterns. The wind carried strange things here. It should have whistled between rocks. It didn't. It should have echoed shouts. It swallowed them. Then she heard it. Not a voice, not quite. Just breath. Deliberate. Watching, near. She turned sharply, scope up. A flicker. Far out, a dark shape dipped behind stone. Too smooth for a natural motion. Too quiet for a retreat. She focused the scope. Nothing. Then, movement. Not a man. Not a squad. A mask, white, unmarked. Gone in a blink. Behind her, one of the soldiers laughed nervously. "Place gives me the creeps. Feels like it's—" Listening. Evelyn didn't respond. She already knew it was. That night, Evelyn sat alone in the post's comms room. Not because she needed to. Because she felt something there. Under the console, barely visible behind an old fuse panel, was a latch. Old metal. Polished by fingerprints. She pried it open. Dust fell, cold air followed. A tunnel, dug clean, lined with composite walls. No lighting, but not old. Someone maintained this. She clicked her torch and descended. 15 steps in, the signal dropped. Then ahead. Markings on the wall. Chalk. Not military. A child's drawing. Sun, birds, a woman with dark hair holding a scope. Her? She stepped back. Her hand brushed a panel. It clicked. Behind it, in a memory card, wrapped in plastic. Marked only with one letter. E. Back above ground, Evelyn locked herself inside the Humvee and slid the card into her encrypted tablet. A video file opened. First static. Then, a man, hooded, face half in shadow. He looked directly into the lens. "If you're watching this, Evelyn, it's already started again." Her blood chilled. "They're using the valley. Same methods, same timing, only now, you're the target." He leaned closer. "And she's still alive. You thought she wasn't, but you missed the last signal. The screen cut." "Then, audio." A woman's voice. Broken, strained, whispering in the dark. "Eve, if you can hear me, I didn't die. They made it look like I did. Don't trust the next outpost. Don't trust their intel. They're waiting for you. And he's back." The voice ended in a sob. Evelyn sat in silence, jaw clenched. Then she whispered, "Where are you?" Behind her, something moved. A footstep in the dust. Too close. Too quiet. The cabin was full. Chairs scraped. A kettle steamed. A chessboard sat mid-game. Footprints surrounded the porch. But Evelyn saw the problem the moment she stepped closer. No tracks led away. She knelt at the edge of the dirt path, eyes narrowing. Soldiers had clearly walked up to the front door, but none had walked away. The ground was undisturbed, like the forest swallowed them whole. Behind her, one of the younger scouts murmured, "Where did they go?" Evelyn didn't answer. She just raised her scope again. This outpost wasn't listed on any current map. Even Evelyn had to dig deep through forgotten clearance logs to find it. An old ranger station once repurposed for border monitoring, long since decommissioned, but it was still drawing power, still transmitting encrypted beacons once every 12 hours. Someone was using it. Recently, they arrived at 0500, Evelyn, Calder and a 3-man squad. The place should have been silent. Instead, a low hum greeted them, not electricity but tension. A stillness that carried weight. Like something unseen watched from the rafters. The front door was unlocked. Inside, untouched equipment. Boiling water left to steam. 6 chairs around a table. Plates of half-eaten rations. The squad leader, Ramirez, swore under his breath. They were just here. Evelyn didn't speak. She was too busy checking the ceiling and the corners, places people vanish from. Evelyn found it behind the bunk bed. A hatch, cold to the touch. No dust on the handle, recently opened. She didn't wait for permission. Down the narrow stairs, into a reinforced sub-level, likely Cold War era, lined with old communication gear. Here the dust told a clearer story, some areas untouched, others clearly disturbed. She traced handprints, boot prints. Then she found it, a glass board covered in marker scrawls. Names, numbers, grid references, drawings of her scope, of her last known location, and a photo. Old, cracked. 2 women in civilian clothes standing in front of a Humvee. One of them was Evelyn. The other, someone she'd buried years ago. Her fingers hesitated over the glass. Then she noticed the red X drawn across the second woman's face. Underneath, reactivation confirmed. Primary target returning. The cabin was full. Chairs scraped. A kettle steamed. A chessboard sat mid-game. Footprints surrounded the porch. But Evelyn saw the problem the moment she stepped closer. No tracks led away. She knelt at the edge of the dirt path, eyes narrowing. Soldiers had clearly walked up to the front door, but none had walked away. The ground was undisturbed, like the forest swallowed them whole. Behind her, one of the younger scouts murmured, "Where did they go?" Evelyn didn't answer. She just raised her scope again. This outpost wasn't listed on any current map. Even Evelyn had to dig deep through forgotten clearance logs to find it. An old ranger station once repurposed for border monitoring, long since decommissioned, but it was still drawing power, still transmitting encrypted beacons once every 12 hours. Someone was using it. Recently, they arrived at 0500, Evelyn, Calder and a 3-man squad. The place should have been silent. Instead, a low hum greeted them, not electricity but tension. A stillness that carried weight, like something unseen watched from the rafters. The front door was unlocked. Inside, untouched equipment. Boiling water left to steam. 6 chairs around a table. Plates of half-eaten rations. The squad leader, Ramirez, swore under his breath. They were just here. Evelyn didn't speak. She was too busy checking the ceiling and the corners, places people vanish from. Evelyn found it behind the bunk bed. A hatch, cold to the touch. No dust on the handle, recently opened. She didn't wait for permission. Down the narrow stairs, into a reinforced sub-level, likely Cold War era, lined with old communication gear. Here the dust told a clearer story, some areas untouched, others clearly disturbed. She traced handprints, boot prints. Then she found it, a glass board covered in marker scrawls. Names, numbers, grid references, drawings of her scope, of her last known location, and a photo. Old, cracked. 2 women in civilian clothes standing in front of a Humvee. One of them was Evelyn. The other, someone she'd buried years ago. Her fingers hesitated over the glass. Then she noticed the red X drawn across the second woman's face. Underneath, reactivation confirmed. Primary target returning. The cabin was full. Chairs scraped. A kettle steamed. A chessboard sat mid-game. Footprints surrounded the porch. But Evelyn saw the problem the moment she stepped closer. No tracks led away. She knelt at the edge of the dirt path, eyes narrowing. Soldiers had clearly walked up to the front door, but none had walked away. The ground was undisturbed, like the forest swallowed them whole. Behind her, one of the younger scouts murmured, "Where did they go?" Evelyn didn't answer. She just raised her scope again. This outpost wasn't listed on any current map. Even Evelyn had to dig deep through forgotten clearance logs to find it. An old ranger station once repurposed for border monitoring, long since decommissioned, but it was still drawing power, still transmitting encrypted beacons once every 12 hours. Someone was using it. Recently, they arrived at 0500, Evelyn, Calder and a 3-man squad. The place should have been silent. Instead, a low hum greeted them, not electricity but tension. A stillness that carried weight, like something unseen watched from the rafters. The front door was unlocked. Inside, untouched equipment. Boiling water left to steam. 6 chairs around a table. Plates of half-eaten rations. The squad leader, Ramirez, swore under his breath. They were just here. Evelyn didn't speak. She was too busy checking the ceiling and the corners, places people vanish from. Evelyn found it behind the bunk bed. A hatch, cold to the touch. No dust on the handle, recently opened. She didn't wait for permission. Down the narrow stairs, into a reinforced sub-level, likely Cold War era, lined with old communication gear. Here the dust told a clearer story, some areas untouched, others clearly disturbed. She traced handprints, boot prints. Then she found it, a glass board covered in marker scrawls. Names, numbers, grid references, drawings of her scope, of her last known location, and a photo. Old, cracked. 2 women in civilian clothes standing in front of a Humvee. One of them was Evelyn. The other, someone she'd buried years ago. Her fingers hesitated over the glass. Then she noticed the red X drawn across the second woman's face. Underneath, reactivation confirmed. Primary target returned. She went deeper. Level 2 was colder, silent, abandoned. Level 3 buzzed. Not from lights, from sound. Low-frequency pulses and below hearing, but heavy enough to press behind the eyes. She followed it down a long corridor to a door marked Containment Bay 7A. Inside, a single glass cell, and within it, a girl. Young, maybe 10. Hair matted, clothes ragged. Eyes wrong, not feral, not afraid. Just wrong! She looked up, saw Evelyn, and smiled. Evelyn didn't move. Who are you? The girl tilted her head. I've seen you before. In the sand. Evelyn's blood chilled. No, you haven't. Yes, I have, the girl whispered. Then she stood, calm, graceful, practiced, and walked to the glass. I was with her, she said.
Delia?
The girl nodded. She's close now. She's almost ready. Ready for what? The girl didn't answer. She simply leaned in, pressing her palm to the glass. Evelyn took a step back, and the girl smiled wider. Too wide. Evelyn backed out of the cell room and returned to the hallway. A console sat at the far wall, active. She accessed the logs, scrolled backward. Surveillance footage, audio entries, sensor readouts. Then, a hidden file, buried 3 layers down, marked Eve 1987. She played it. Static, then a woman's voice, older, calmer. If this is Evelyn, I need you to listen carefully. Evelyn froze. They lied about what happened in 87. The project wasn't abandoned. It was divided. Delia wasn't the only one we couldn't control. There was another subject, younger, quieter, more dangerous. You saw her today. She doesn't age the same, doesn't think the same. She was made to follow Delia. If Delia reactivates, she does too. If you find her, do not speak her name. Do not let her out. And above all, the voice cut off, replaced by whispering. Layers and layers of voices overlapping. One rose above the rest. It was the girl's. You always come back. We always wait for you. Behind Evelyn, the air changed. Warm, breathing. She turned, flashlight raised. The cell was now empty. Just a smear of condensation on the glass. And a single word written in it, Evelyn. The steel door groaned. Not from age, from motion. Evelyn stood still at the end of the corridor. Flashlight off, sidearm drawn. The containment room where the girl had been held, the one with a 7-digit keypad and triple-sealed bolts, was now wide open. She hadn't touched it, and no one else had gone in. But the bolts had unlatched. From inside, whatever was in there had decided to leave. Below level 3, everything changed. There were no signs. No hallway markers. Just concrete and thick steel reinforcements. Evelyn descended the emergency ladder alone. Calder and the others had tried to follow, but static overwhelmed their comms. And something in the air made their weapons glitch. She told them to stay. Now she moved alone beneath the earth, where the tech failed and instincts mattered more. Her flashlight flickered, once, twice, then died completely. But a faint red glow began to rise along the far corridor. Like emergency lighting? Except she hadn't activated anything. And this facility hadn't seen power in decades, yet something was breathing life back into it. Not machinery, not protocol, something else, something watching. She followed the red light. It led to a wide chamber with mirrored walls. Surveillance glass one way, observation booths embedded around a central test floor, and on that floor, a chair. Strapped, rusted, empty. except for a tape recorder, still spinning. She pressed play. Her own voice filled the room. Test log, Evelyn Shaw. Entry number 4, subject stable. Unresponsive to audio triggers? She staggered back. She didn't remember recording that. Didn't remember being here. But the voice was hers. Clear. Unmistakable. She checked the label on the tape. 1987. She would have been 10 years old. That wasn't possible. Evelyn approached the mirrored wall. Behind it, dark observation glass. She couldn't see through, but her reflection looked off. Too sharp, too calm. And then, it blinked. Before she did, she stepped closer, and her reflection smiled, and first subtle, then wide. Mocking. She didn't move, but the mirror did. It rippled like water. She drew her weapon. Then, a breath. Warm against her ear. From behind her. She spun, and nothing there. But on the floor, something new had been placed. A child's drawing. Crayon, torn edges. A woman holding a scope, next to a child in a containment chair. Above them, in shaky red marker. Mom? Evelyn froze. Then slowly whispered, Delia didn't have a child. But something in her gut told her that was a lie. A lie someone buried deep, and now it was unburying itself. An alarm screamed through the corridor. Not one she recognized. Not military. A tone designed to trigger fear, not protocol. Flashing lights came next. Not red now, blue. And in that hue, shadows danced on the walls. Figures. Tall, slow. Walking toward her, but leaving no sound. No footsteps. No breathing. Just presence. Evelyn backed into the chamber. Closed the mirrored door behind her. Locked it manually. One of the shadows paused at the glass. A handprint appeared, smaller than hers. Then a whisper came through the vent. She opened the wrong door, Evelyn. She let it back in. Another voice followed, one she hadn't heard in years. Delia, I told you not to follow. Then static. And from the floor vent came a giggle. Not mechanical, not warped. A child's, playful. Then it whispered, Mom. The door stood untouched for years. Rust framed its edges. Concrete chipped where bullets had once struck near it. A faded warning stencil above the latch read, Do not open, level 0. Evelyn stood in front of it now, breathing slow. Her hand hovered inches from the steel. She hadn't seen this door since she was 15, and she had never opened it. Behind her, the hallway was dead silent, but in her chest, a memory screamed. She remembered the day they told her it didn't exist. Level 0, officially never built. Unofficially buried after a breach, a silent disaster nobody put in the records. Evelyn was a teenager when she passed by this hallway the first time, escorted, gagged, blindfolded, but still aware. She remembered a specific sound behind the door. Breathing, not loud, but wrong, rhythmic, deliberate. Today there was no blindfold. Just her, a flashlight, and her weapon. The keypad blinked red. Dead. She reached for the backup. Lock, and a mechanical twist puzzle she hadn't used in years. Her fingers moved almost unconsciously. Click. The latch gave. The door didn't creak. It inhaled. And opened. Inside, no machinery. No cells. Just space. Metal panels curved in a way that defied structure. The room was circular, smooth, wrongly smooth. No shadows stuck to the walls. No sound bounced. And in the center was a single object. A child's cot, old rusted mattress torn, and something curled up on it. Evelyn stepped closer. It was a doll. Weathered. Missing one eye. But on its chest was stitched a name in faded thread. Evelyn. She knelt slowly. Touched the doll. Its fabric felt warm. Suddenly, the overhead lights pulsed. Once, twice. Then from behind her, a door slammed. She spun. There was no door, only wall. The entrance had vanished. She was no longer underground. Not really. The air shifted, heavy, metallic with a scent like old blood and electricity. Then a voice. Low, female, familiar. They trained you well, but they never told you who you really were. Evelyn froze.
Delia?
Silence. Then movement. Not footsteps. A slow walk around her peripheral vision. Too fast for sound, too slow for blur. She raised her weapon. Nothing there. Then the voice returned, closer now. They copied me. Into you, a fragment, a failsafe. That's why you always come back. Evelyn whispered, "No." But part of her had already begun to shake. The scope, the instincts, the silence. They're not gifts, Evelyn.
They're echoes.
Of me. Suddenly, a mirror dropped from the ceiling. Evelyn stared into it. But the reflection wasn't hers. It was Delia's face staring back. The room changed again. Walls rippled. The cot was gone. In its place, another Evelyn. Same face, same gear, but different eyes. Colder, older, empty. She raised her weapon at the real Evelyn. Both froze. Then the other spoke, voice flat. "You were the decoy." A pause. "I'm the original." Evelyn's finger twitched on the trigger. "You remember the mission, don't you?" The other Evelyn smiled slightly. "You never came back from the 2018 breach. You just think you did." The room flickered again. Alarms echoed from outside. And then, a child's laughter filled the space. They both turned. A small silhouette stepped into the light. The girl from the cell. She held both their dog tags and whispered, "Only one of you gets to leave." The door behind her slid open. The hallway beyond looked clean, real, present day, but only wide enough for one. She stood barefoot, dirt smudged on her knees, and in her small hand, 2 identical dog tags, both read Shaw E. She raised them slowly between her fingers like a coin about to be tossed. 2 Evelyns. 1 hallway, 1 way out. The girl looked up, eyes wide and unblinking, then whispered, "One is memory. 1 is weapon," and she dropped the tags. The 2 women didn't move. They watched the tags fall. 1 clinked against the metal floor. The other landed silently. Stillness stretched between them like a tripwire. The other Evelyn stepped forward first. "You should have never come this deep." Evelyn narrowed her eyes. "You talk like I'm not supposed to exist." "You aren't," the double said calmly. "You're the part they sent back to keep the world normal. But the real one stayed." "Stayed where?" The double smiled without warmth. "Inside the door you just opened." Evelyn stared at her and realized the other Evelyn's boots were scuffed in reverse, like she walked out of memories, not into them. The girl knelt and touched the dog tags gently. Around her, the hallway dissolved, becoming not one space but many. The same corridor from different years, flashing in ghost frames. The 1987 breach, soldiers shouting. 2018, Delia escaping containment. 2020, a child drawing circles on the wall. And always Evelyn. Different ages, watching, silent. The girl stood. Behind her, doors appeared on all 4 walls. 4 options. 4 possible pasts. The double Evelyn spoke again. "This facility never closed. It resets. Every time someone reaches level 0 and remembers, it starts again." Evelyn whispered, "How many times have I—" The other Evelyn interrupted. "Hundreds." The girl reached for Evelyn's hand. Evelyn flinched, then let her. The child's grip was cold. Too still. Not human warmth, more like memory made physical. The girl looked up. "Do you know what they made me from?" Evelyn didn't answer. The girl turned to the double. Pointed. "She's the one who remembers." Then to Evelyn. "But you're the one who still feels." She handed Evelyn 1 dog tag and placed the other in the double's hand. The room flickered, and suddenly, both women were outside. In the desert. Night, cold wind, full moon. But only one of them stood. Evelyn sat up slowly. Sand beneath her. Sky above. A patrol Humvee rumbled in the distance, headlights sweeping across dunes. She touched her neck. Only 1 tag hung there. The other was gone. She stood, unsteady, quiet. The girl was gone too. But as the headlights passed her face, she saw a reflection in the vehicle window. Herself. But for a second it wasn't her. It was Delia, smiling faintly, then gone. The soldier in the Humvee yelled, "Ma'am, you okay? Where the hell did you come from?" Evelyn turned to him slowly, paused, and said, "I think I just got out." But her fingers stayed clenched around something in her pocket, a child's crayon drawing of 2 women. 1 standing, 1 watching, and a word scribbled beside them. Not over. The desert night glowed green beneath her NVGs. Evelyn braced the laser designator on a kneeling monopod, thumb hovering over the fire switch. Objective: light up an abandoned radar dish, so a drone could drop a micro-munitions package and bury the site for good. She squeezed. A silent ruby beam leapt from the optics, then blinked out of existence a meter from the dish. No scatter, no backsparkle, no reflection. It was as if the desert air had swallowed light itself. Behind her, a young JTAC muttered, "Ma'am, your battery's fine." "The laser's fine." "Where'd it go?" Evelyn exhaled, pulse suddenly loud in her ears. Where did the light go? 5 hours earlier, she'd been med-checked, cleared, and reassigned to QRF Echo, a quick reaction patrol dragged out to verify rumors of a mobile jammer messing with satellite links. Official brief, burnt-out Soviet radar site. 0 hostiles, secure and mark for CAS. Unofficial. Evelyn still gripped a crumpled crayon, drawing in her pocket and dreamed of mirrored rooms when she closed her eyes. Now Echo Team's 4 MRFs idled behind a sand berm. Moonlight painted the radar dish like a broken sail. Everything looked static, empty. Evelyn crawled forward again, refocused the designator, fired. The beam vanished exactly where it had before, as if colliding with an invisible wall. She whispered on the squad net, "We've got anomalous optics absorption at grid 0379. Treat as active tech." Silence, then Calder's clipped reply, "Copy. You think that mound is hot?" "Hot and smart," she said. "Recommend IR scan passive only. No active beams. Because something out there was eating light." Switching to longwave, she watched Echo's drone drift overhead. No lights, just a faint hum. Its thermal feed arrived on her tablet, blank. The ground below the dish registered ambient. Desert temperature, too. Cold for sun-soaked metal. Too warm for nightstone. A perfect middle line like numbers forged in a lab. Tech Sergeant Dwyer cursed. "Dish is mirroring air temp. Can't lock tone." Evelyn's mind raced back to level 0. Rooms with no corners. Reflections that smiled first. Surfaces that lied. She panned right, saw a shimmer like heat haze but without heat. A wall of air wavering in straight angles. Cloak tech. Not prototype, operational. Echo's medic, Ruiz, whispered beside her. "Feels empty. Like nobody's here?" Evelyn's throat tightened. Or like somebody really doesn't want us to notice they are. She remembered the other Evelyn saying, "You were the decoy." Was this another decoy? Or the point of return? She ordered Echo into a slow, silent approach. 30-meter dispersion, safety's off. As they advanced, moon-shadowed sand shifted, curving around an object their eyes couldn't see. Compass needles twitched. Radios squealed narrowband bursts. At 5 meters, the air itself sharpened. Evelyn reached out and felt something. Smooth, cold, humming, right where nothing visible stood. She slid a chem stick across the surface. The glowing liquid disappeared, fizzled, then reappeared dripping off an unseen edge, illuminating outlines of a structure taller than a house. A hidden hangar. Dwyer mouthed, "Holy..." A seam, no wider than a credit card, slid open. Stale, pressurized air hissed out, carrying the copper tang of electronics. Calder started forward. Evelyn blocked him. "I go first." Inside, lights were dim amber, floor plate spotless. Server racks lined both walls, all bearing the same triangular inside circle sigil carved into the trap on Chapter 1's flagpole. And at the far end, an empty child-sized chair with leather restraints, a mirrored panel behind it. On the mirror, written in dried condensation, "Welcome back, E." Alarms stayed silent. Power stayed steady. Whoever owned this place wanted them alive long enough to see. Evelyn's eyes landed on a small pedestal beside the chair. 2 dog tags. One read, "Shaw, E." The other read, "Nothing." Metal sanded blank. She pocketed the blank tag on reflex, and instantaneously, the radar dish outside lit up on every Echo helmet HUD like a Christmas tree. IFF transponders screaming target lock. Calder shouted upstairs, "Drone just got a mark!" "We have designation." "Where did that come from?" Evelyn whispered. It came from inside. The tag in her palm glowed faintly with embedded micro RF. Someone or something wanted the dish destroyed now. She pressed the radio. Echo, confirm fire mission. Engage target. A distant whine overhead, then the night blossomed into white light. The dish erupted, sending shockwaves through the concealed hangar. Ceilings trembled, racks flickered off one by one. Evelyn sprinted back toward daylight. Behind her, servers burst like firecrackers. But no shrapnel reached her, like the corridor curved space away from harm. She tumbled outside as the hangar's cloak failed, revealing scorched alloy ribs to the world. Flames reflected off dunes. The blank tag in her fist dimmed, then etched letters appeared, burned in by internal heat. "Not over?" Wind gusted, scattering hot sand across her boots. Somewhere behind the fire, a child's laugh echoed once, then was gone. Evelyn closed her hand around the tag and stared at the newborn crater, heart thundering. They had marked the target for her, which meant there was another one waiting, and maybe this time only the weapon would be sent. Static hissed across all 4 squad channels. No enemy chatter, no pings. Just a soft, low pulse like breathing through wires. Then Evelyn heard it. A female voice. "Echo, this is Shaw, reporting from inside the array." But Evelyn hadn't touched her radio. She froze, looked at her unit. Calder-mouthed, "Did you key that?" She shook her head. The voice repeated. "Echo, this is Shaw, inside the array. Coordinates match. Begin burn protocol." It was her own voice. From 15 minutes ago. Except she had never said those words. The techs found it while recovering black box telemetry from the destroyed radar dish. One unmarked file. Encrypted. Non-standard file structure. No known creation date. Evelyn opened it. Video. Night vision feed. Room with no corners. Her voice whispering commands into a device with no markings. Behind her in the footage, the child. Watching. But Evelyn had no memory of this recording. And yet, she believed it was real. "What the hell is this?" Calder asked. Evelyn simply said, "A loop." He frowned. "A what?" She looked up. "We've been here before. 3 new signals triangulated in the drone grid. Each one pointed to a point west of the crater. Not a place on the map. Just an intersection of long dead satellites, coordinates used only in covert ops for locations that shouldn't exist anymore." Evelyn ran them through archive recall. One pinged something deep beneath an abandoned Cold War comms station in Nevada. Another beneath Arctic ice. The third, beneath the original base where she'd first trained at 17. A base that had burned down in 2009. Echo Command wanted to investigate the nearest site. Evelyn said no. She wanted to go back to the first place. To the one under ice. "Because cold things don't lie," she whispered. "They just wait." 2 weeks later. Whiteout conditions. Evelyn stepped off the tilt rotor and into a frozen wasteland where nothing but wind moved. The entrance was buried, but the transponder frequency pulsed faintly beneath 3 meters of snow. She dug by hand. Eventually steel, then a hatch. Inside, no frost. Warm lights. The first room held nothing but one screen. On it, a slow-motion clip of Evelyn in a mirrored hallway, touching her own reflection, looping over and over. She advanced down 1 level, then another, until she found it. The same chair, same restraints, and this time it wasn't empty. The girl sat there, smiling. She looked up and said, "You made it through." Evelyn whispered, "What are you?" The child tilted her head. Not what, when. Evelyn stood in the snow as the site burned behind her. No orders, no mission left, just ashes in a storm. She held one thing in her hand. A tag. Not hers. Delia's, on the back, etched by heat or time or something else. The copy sees further than the original. She didn't know what it meant, only that she hadn't stopped anything. Just understood it. As the evac chopper descended through the ice fog, Evelyn looked back at the white flames rising into the sky. She whispered, "I won't forget again. Some stories don't end. They just wait in silence, until someone remembers the sound of their own voice in a place they've never been." If this story left you thinking about memory, about war, about who we really are, then don't let the signal die here. Subscribe for more cinematic stories like this. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next breach. And in the comments, tell us this. Who do you think walked out? The soldier? Or the echo? We'll be watching quietly.